Steve Harvey has navigated countless difficult moments during his years hosting Family Feud, but what happened during a taping in December 2024 created a controversy that would not go away quietly. A moment that seemed innocent at first turned into a national debate about respect, cultural sensitivity, and the responsibilities of television personalities. For weeks, Steve remained silent while social media erupted with opinions, accusations, and demands for accountability. But when Steve Harvey finally broke his silence, what he revealed about that jaw-dropping contestant fiasco shocked everyone who thought they understood what had happened that day. The incident involved the Chen family from San Francisco competing against the Williams family from Chicago. During what should have been a routine fast money round, contestant Jennifer Chen gave an answer that made Steve Harvey pause mid-question. His reaction to her response was captured on camera and within hours became one of the most controversial moments in game show history. Critics accused Steve of being disrespectful and culturally insensitive. Defenders argued he was simply doing his job as a host. Nobody seemed to agree on what actually happened or what it meant. Before we reveal what really occurred that day and why Steve stayed silent for so long, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. This story goes far deeper than a simple game show moment. It touches on issues of cultural understanding, media responsibility, and the difference between what we see on camera and the full truth behind the scenes. The controversy began with a single question and a single answer, but the fallout would last for months and change how Steve Harvey approached his role as America's favorite game show host. Jennifer Chen was a 36-year-old emergency room physician who had immigrated to the United States from Taiwan when she was 8 years old. She had worked incredibly hard to build a successful medical career while maintaining strong connections to her cultural heritage. Her parents had sacrificed everything to give her opportunities in America, and Jennifer honored that sacrifice by excelling in her studies, becoming a doctor, and giving back to her community through volunteer medical work. The Family Feud appearance was Jennifer's mother's idea. Mrs. Chen had watched the show faithfully for 15 years and dreamed of her family appearing on television together. When Jennifer's younger brother David suggested they apply as a family team, Jennifer agreed immediately. It would make her mother happy, and after the grueling years of medical school and residency, Jennifer welcomed the chance to do something fun and lighthearted with her family. The Chen family consisted of Jennifer, her husband Marcus, her brother David, her sister-in-law Sarah, and her mother Margaret. They were a close-knit family who valued education, hard work, and cultural pride. They spoke Mandarin at home and English in public. They celebrated traditional Taiwanese holidays while also embracing American customs. They represented the millions of immigrant families who navigate between two cultures every day. What Jennifer did not anticipate was that a simple answer during Fast Money would turn into a cultural flashpoint. She certainly did not expect that Steve Harvey's reaction would be analyzed frame by frame, debated on news networks, and turned into think pieces about race, culture, and representation in media. Steve Harvey, for his part, had been hosting Family Feud for over a decade. He prided himself on being able to connect with contestants from all backgrounds. He had featured families from every ethnicity, religion, and region of America. He considered himself culturally aware and respectful. But what happened with Jennifer Chen taught him that good intentions are not always enough, and that sometimes the impact of our actions matters more than our intent. The incident occurred during Fast Money. Jennifer's brother David had gone first and scored 142 points. Jennifer needed 58 points to win the $20,000 for her family. The questions seemed straightforward enough. But it was the fourth question that would create all the controversy. Steve asked Jennifer the first 3 Fast Money questions. Her answers were solid, racking up points steadily. The studio audience was engaged and supportive. Everything seemed normal. Then Steve asked the fourth question, name a food that people eat with chopsticks. Jennifer answered immediately, without hesitation, rice. Steve Harvey's face froze. He looked at Jennifer with an expression that viewers would later describe as everything from shocked to condescending to openly mocking. The pause lasted only 3 seconds, but those 3 seconds would be replayed millions of times online. Rice. Steve repeated, his tone incredulous. You eat rice with chopsticks. The audience laughed. Some of the laughter was nervous, but some seemed to be laughing at Jennifer rather than with her. Jennifer's face flushed red. She nodded, her confidence wavering. Yes, that is how many Asian people eat rice. With chopsticks. Steve shook his head slowly, still smiling but in a way that felt dismissive. I have never seen anybody eat rice with chopsticks. That is the craziest thing I have heard all day. More laughter from the audience. Jennifer stood there, clearly uncomfortable now. Her family members behind her looked confused and upset. The moment continued for what felt like an eternity to Jennifer, though it was only about 10 seconds total. Then Steve moved on to the 5th question, and the game continued. When they revealed the answers, rice was indeed on the board as the number 3 answer with 18 points. Steve acknowledged it briefly but did not apologize for his reaction. Jennifer's family won the $20,000, but the victory felt hollow. The episode aired 2 weeks later. Within an hour of broadcast, social media exploded. Asian American viewers expressed outrage at Steve's reaction to Jennifer's answer. They pointed out that eating rice with chopsticks is completely normal and common across multiple Asian cultures. They accused Steve of cultural ignorance and mocking an Asian contestant for giving a culturally accurate answer. The clip went viral. News outlets picked up the story. Headlines read, Steve Harvey mocks Asian contestant's answer, and Family Feud host shows cultural insensitivity. Asian American advocacy groups called for an apology. Some demanded that Steve undergo cultural sensitivity training. A few even called for him to be removed as host of the show. Steve's defenders argued that he was simply surprised by an answer he had not expected. They claimed his reaction was not about race or culture, but about his personal experience. They pointed out that Steve frequently makes similar reactions to answers that surprise him, regardless of the contestant's background. The debate raged for days, then weeks. Think pieces were written about the incident. Media critics analyzed the moment from every angle. Some argued it represented a larger problem of Asian representation in American media. Others claimed it was being blown out of proportion and that Steve's reaction was innocent. Through all of this, Steve Harvey remained silent. He did not issue a statement. He did not apologize. He did not defend himself. His silence only intensified the controversy. People demanded to know why he would not address the situation. Was he ignoring valid criticism? Did he not care about the harm his words had caused? Was he being advised by lawyers to stay quiet? For 6 weeks, Steve said nothing publicly while the story continued to generate headlines and hot takes. Jennifer Chen, meanwhile, was thrust into an unwanted spotlight. News organizations wanted interviews. She received both supportive messages and hateful comments online. Her moment of family fun had turned into something she never wanted or expected. 7 weeks after the incident, Steve Harvey finally broke his silence, but he did not do it through a press release or a social media statement. Instead, he invited Jennifer Chen to appear with him on his talk show for a one-on-one conversation that would be broadcast nationally. When the announcement was made, speculation ran wild. Would Steve apologize? Would Jennifer confront him? Would this be damage control or genuine dialogue? Nobody knew what to expect. The episode opened with Steve sitting alone on stage, looking more serious than viewers had ever seen him. He addressed the camera directly. For the past 7 weeks, I have been silent about what happened with Dr. Jennifer Chen on Family Feud. I have been silent while people have called me ignorant, insensitive, and worse. I have been silent while this moment has been analyzed and debated and turned into something much bigger than a game show. I stayed silent not because I do not care, and not because I was hiding. I stayed silent because I needed time to truly understand what happened and why it mattered so much. Steve paused, letting his words settle. I am a 67-year-old black man from West Virginia. I grew up in a world that was very different from the world we live in today. I have spent my entire career trying to bring joy and laughter to people through comedy and entertainment. But what I learned from this experience is that good intentions do not protect you from causing harm. And when you have a platform as big as mine, your impact matters more than your intent. The audience was completely silent, listening intently. This was not the jovial game show host they were used to seeing. This was someone speaking from a place of genuine reflection and humility. Steve continued. I want to bring out Dr. Jennifer Chen now, not to defend myself or to get her to forgive me on camera. I want to have an honest conversation about what happened, what it meant, and what we can all learn from it. Jennifer walked out to warm applause. She sat down across from Steve, and the tension in the room was palpable. Steve looked directly at her. Dr. Chen, first I want to say something I should have said 7 weeks ago. I am sorry. I am sorry for my reaction to your answer. I am sorry for making you feel mocked or disrespected. I am sorry for not understanding the cultural context of what you said. And I am sorry that a moment that should have been fun and celebratory for your family turned into something painful. Jennifer nodded, clearly emotional. Thank you for saying that. But I want you to know something else, Steve said. The reason I stayed silent for so long was because I reached out to you privately the day after the episode aired. I asked if we could talk, just the two of us, before making any public statements. And you agreed to meet with me. Can you tell everyone what happened in that meeting? Jennifer took a breath. Steve called me personally and asked if he could visit me and my family. He did not bring cameras or publicists. He came to our home and sat with my mother, my husband, and me for 3 hours. He listened to us explain why his reaction hurt. He asked questions about our culture. He wanted to understand, genuinely understand, not just apologize and move on. Steve nodded. Your mother taught me something important that day. She explained that for many Asian Americans, small moments of being dismissed or mocked for cultural practices add up over time. One joke might seem harmless, but when you experience those jokes over and over throughout your life, they create real pain. I had never thought about it that way before. My mother also told you something else, Jennifer added. She said she did not think you were a bad person or that you intended to hurt anyone. She said you just did not know what you did not know, and that the important thing was whether you would be willing to learn. And I have been learning, Steve said. For the past 7 weeks, I have been meeting with Asian American community leaders, cultural educators, and people who can help me understand perspectives and experiences different from my own. I did not want to issue some generic apology and move on. I wanted to actually do the work to become better. Steve turned to address the audience and cameras. I want to tell you all something that has been weighing on me. When Dr. Chen said rice as her answer, my immediate thought was that she had misunderstood the question. In my experience, which is limited to American restaurants and what I have seen on television, I had only seen people eat things like sushi or Chinese takeout with chopsticks. I genuinely did not know that rice by itself is commonly eaten with chopsticks in many Asian cultures. He paused. Now, some people might say that ignorance is not an excuse. And they would be right. As someone with a platform that reaches millions of people, I have a responsibility to educate myself about the diverse experiences and cultures that make up America. My ignorance, even if unintentional, caused harm, and I own that completely. Jennifer spoke up. What has been hardest about this situation is that it turned a personal moment into a national controversy. I am a doctor, not an activist or a spokesperson. I went on Family Feud to make my mother happy, and suddenly I was thrust into the center of a debate about representation and cultural sensitivity. That was overwhelming. I can only imagine, Steve said gently, which is why I am so grateful that you agreed to have this conversation publicly. You did not owe me that. I agreed because I saw your willingness to learn, Jennifer said. When you came to my home, you did not make excuses. You did not get defensive. You listened. You asked questions. You showed genuine remorse and a desire to do better. That meant more to me than any public apology could have. The televised conversation between Steve Harvey and Jennifer Chen became one of the most watched talk show episodes of the year. But the impact went far beyond ratings. The episode sparked a national conversation about cultural awareness, media representation, and how to handle mistakes with grace and accountability. Steve did not stop with the public conversation. He announced the creation of a new initiative through his foundation called Cultural Bridges. The program would bring together entertainment industry professionals with cultural educators to provide training on cultural competency, unconscious bias, and inclusive content creation. Additionally, Steve committed to featuring more diverse families on Family Feud and ensuring that cultural consultants were available during tapings to help hosts and producers understand cultural context for answers and questions. The show began including more questions that reflected the diversity of American experiences rather than assuming a single cultural perspective. Jennifer Chen used the unexpected platform she had been given to advocate for better representation of Asian Americans in media. She started a blog discussing the modal minority myth, microaggressions in professional settings, and the importance of cultural pride. She gave talks at medical schools about navigating professional environments while maintaining cultural identity. 3 months after their televised conversation, Steve invited Jennifer to participate in the first Cultural Bridges workshop. Entertainment industry professionals spent a full day learning about different cultural perspectives, examining their own biases, and discussing how to create content that respects and represents diverse audiences. The workshop addressed specific issues that had arisen in the Family Feud incident. Participants discussed how assumptions based on limited personal experience can lead to dismissive or mocking behavior. They explored the difference between intent and impact. They learned strategies for handling moments when cultural misunderstandings occur on live television. One of the most powerful moments came when Steve shared his personal journey of education over the past months. He talked about reading books by Asian American authors, watching films that explored Asian American experiences, and having conversations with people whose lives were very different from his own. "I am 67 years old," Steve said during the workshop, "and I am still learning. I will probably make more mistakes. But what I am committed to is continuing to learn, continuing to listen, and continuing to do better. That is all any of us can do." The story took another meaningful turn when Jennifer's mother, Margaret Chen, appeared on Steve's talk show 6 months after the original incident. She brought with her a gift, a beautiful set of chopsticks and a traditional Taiwanese rice bowl. "I want to teach you how we eat rice in my culture," Mrs. Chen said with a warm smile. "Not because you must eat this way, but so you understand that there are many ways to do things, and all of them are valid." The segment showed Mrs. Chen teaching Steve the proper way to hold chopsticks and eat rice. Steve was humble and teachable, asking questions and genuinely trying to learn. The moment was both educational and heartwarming, showing that cultural exchange can happen with respect and curiosity. The segment went viral for entirely different reasons than the original incident. This time, people shared it as an example of how to handle mistakes with grace, how to bridge cultural divides with genuine effort, and how to turn controversy into an opportunity for growth and understanding. 1 year after the incident, Family Feud produced a special episode celebrating cultural diversity in America. Families from various cultural backgrounds competed, and the questions were designed to honor different traditions and perspectives. Steve hosted with a noticeably different approach, taking time to learn about each family's cultural heritage and treating unfamiliar answers with curiosity rather than dismissal. Jennifer Chen and her family returned to participate in the special episode. This time, when cultural references came up in answers, Steve asked follow-up questions to learn more rather than reacting with surprise or skepticism. The transformation was evident to everyone watching. The episode concluded with Steve making a powerful statement. "This past year has taught me that America's diversity is not something to navigate around, but something to celebrate and learn from. Every family that comes on this stage has a story, a culture, a perspective that enriches our understanding of what it means to be American, and my job is not just to host a game show but to honor those stories and those cultures." The impact of the incident and its resolution extended into academic and professional settings. The Steve Harvey and Jennifer Chen case study was used in business schools to teach crisis management and cultural competency. Communication departments analyzed how the situation was handled and what could be learned about public accountability. Media companies began implementing cultural advisory boards to review content before it aired. Game shows and reality programs started providing cultural sensitivity training for hosts and producers. The industry began to recognize that in an increasingly diverse America, cultural awareness was not optional but essential. 2 years after the original incident, Steve and Jennifer co-authored an opinion piece for a major newspaper titled, "The Chopstick Moment: How a Game Show Mistake Taught Us About Cultural Humility." The piece discussed their journey from that uncomfortable moment to genuine friendship and mutual respect. In the article, they addressed the question that many people still asked: why did it take Steve so long to speak publicly about the incident? Jennifer answered that question directly. "Steve asked me what I needed from him," Jennifer wrote. "I told him that I did not need a public apology that was really about managing his image. I needed to know that he understood why his reaction hurt and that he was committed to doing better. So we agreed that he would take time to actually educate himself before making any public statements. That way, when he did speak, it would come from genuine understanding rather than just damage control." Steve's portion of the article was equally candid. "In our culture of instant response and social media statements, I chose to do something different. I chose to be quiet publicly while doing the hard work privately. That meant enduring criticism and accusations while I learned and grew. But it was the right choice because when I finally spoke, I had something real to say, not just words crafted by a publicist." The article concluded with both of them reflecting on what the incident had taught them about accountability, forgiveness, and growth. They acknowledged that the situation had been painful and controversial, but that it had also created opportunities for meaningful dialogue and real change. 3 years after the jaw-dropping contestant Fiasco, the story reached a beautiful conclusion. The Cultural Bridges program that Steve had started had trained over 500 entertainment industry professionals. Family Feud had featured families from dozens of different cultural backgrounds, with hosts and producers better equipped to handle cultural nuances. Jennifer Chen had become a voice for Asian American representation in media while continuing her work as an emergency room physician. She regularly spoke about the importance of cultural pride and the need for diverse representation in all areas of society. Steve Harvey had transformed from someone who made a culturally insensitive mistake into someone who actively championed cultural understanding. He often referenced the chopstick incident in his motivational talks, using it as an example of how our biggest mistakes can become our greatest teachers if we are willing to learn from them. Before we close this remarkable story, please hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. This story is about more than a game show controversy. It is about how we handle our mistakes, how we respond to criticism, how we bridge cultural divides, and how we grow from experiences that challenge our assumptions. The jaw-dropping contestant Fiasco that made national headlines was ultimately not about a single moment on a game show stage. It was about a 67-year-old television host being willing to admit he did not know everything. It was about a 36-year-old doctor finding her voice as an advocate. It was about a culture of instant outrage learning to value genuine accountability over performative apologies. Steve Harvey broke his silence after 7 weeks not because he was ready to defend himself, but because he had genuinely changed. He had done the work. He had listened and learned. And when he finally spoke, he had something meaningful to say about cultural humility, personal growth, and the ongoing work of becoming better. The incident taught viewers an important lesson as well. Sometimes the most important response to controversy is not the fastest one. Sometimes real change requires time, effort, and genuine engagement with people whose experiences are different from our own. And sometimes the people we criticize most harshly can surprise us with their willingness to grow if we give them the space and grace to do so. Jennifer Chen and Steve Harvey turned a moment of cultural insensitivity into a years-long journey of education, dialogue, and mutual respect. They showed that mistakes do not have to define us, that controversies can lead to genuine growth, and that people from very different backgrounds can find common ground when they approach each other with honesty and humility. The chopstick moment, as it came to be known, remains a powerful reminder that in our diverse society, cultural awareness is everyone's responsibility. It reminds us that our limited personal experiences do not represent universal truth. It teaches us that when we make mistakes, the path forward is not defensiveness or denial but genuine curiosity and a commitment to doing better. Steve Harvey did not handle the initial moment well. His reaction to Jennifer's answer was culturally insensitive and dismissive, but what he did afterward, the way he took responsibility, educated himself, and used his platform to promote cultural understanding, that is what ultimately defined the story. He transformed from the subject of controversy to an example of how to grow from mistakes with dignity and genuine change.